What's good, YouTube? James with a Z back. Today I'm coming at you with another one. If you read the title, then cat's out of the bag. I've been pondering it a lot recently. I wonder if, anyone else has the same thoughts, the same feelings that I do. If you do, let me know down in the comments. I really would love to have a discussion about this. So basically, I grew up on Zelda mostly. It was the game that I played. Well, okay, so it was my first game, literally ever. Twilight Princess, back on the GameCube. Loved that game so much. Twilight Princess is very near dear to my heart. The Zelda series is very near dear to my heart. I've played all the mainline games. I've played some of even the other ones. I've played and beat uh, um, A Link to the Past, Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Wind Waker, Spirit Tracks, Phantom Hourglass, Twilight Princess, Skyward Sword, Breath of the Wild. I have not beaten Tears of the Kingdom. Kind of got a little bored with that. I played halfway through, but it really just felt like DLC for Breath of the Wild. I don't know. I was expecting something else. But yeah, if I missed one, I either haven't played it or I've just forgotten about it. Like if it's a well-known game and it's not the first two, then I've most likely played it, or at least I know like what happens in it because I've watched videos on the lore. Because either I'm not really all that interested in investing all that time into playing those games, and it just doesn't really sound all that fun anymore. And let me kind of explain that. So I feel like Dark Souls and Zelda share obviously a lot of similarities and a lot of differences, but a lot of the things that I really enjoy about Zelda, Dark Souls does it better. They both have fantastic worlds, world design, very memorable NPCs, creatures, the dungeons or just like areas you explore, the legacy areas, just absolutely astonishing and just very diverse too. And not only that, but just the combat is just way better and way more engaging in Dark Souls. There's so much more replayability in Dark Souls and Elden, the whole Souls series. You get my point. Than there is in Zelda, because a lot of what Zelda really does well is the puzzles. Now, I don't know if we're the same on this, but I really feel like that shit's gonna be boring as hell going back and doing the same puzzle over and over and over if you already know it. It's not gonna be any different. You already know what to do. It's not gonna be engaging, so you're just basically gonna be running through it. Whereas Dark Souls, it's not the same. There is like very small puzzle solving. It's mostly just down to exploration and a little bit of combat in the puzzles for the most part. But the game is structured around the combat, the exploration and the combat, which Zelda is around exploration too. They have that. But you're going to go, it's going to be way more engaging to play Dark Souls than it is going to be Zelda. And obviously, because you can choose way more different weapons, you can have different builds, different loadouts to engage with the other enemies and bosses so much more differently. You're only going to be using the sword and shield when you're playing as Link, and all the bosses generally have the same movesets depending on what game you're playing, and they're not all that hard to get down. It's almost like a puzzle in of itself, because once you get that, then you know how to exploit them, get them down, get them weak. And for Dark Souls, it's a little different because the AI can switch up and chain other things together. But you know, Zelda it mostly comes down to you get an item, a key item in a dungeon, and you use that item to defeat the boss. And it is engaging to a certain extent, but we're comparing apples to oranges at a certain point. you know, Younger brother to older brother when you compare the two combats. And some people might argue that that's not fair, but I'm making that argument. I'm comparing the two between each other. Now, Zelda and Dark Souls, like I kind of mentioned before, they both have very, very beautiful worlds. Don't get me wrong. Like, that is one thing both have going for them that are really well and are the greater aspects to the game. I'd say honestly, they're probably comparable. They both have very diverse, beautiful, and just unique areas. Like I can just think of all the different areas in Zelda. You know, you got the Blizzard place in Twilight Princess, that mansion all the way out on that mountain that you have to sled down to get to. Ocarina of Time. You go down into the grave of the warriors of the people of the kingdom that you're fighting to save, and you figure out that things aren't so sweet there. You see a lot of horrific things down there, and you start to realize like, wow, am I doing the right thing? You have environmental storytelling, which Dark Souls does really well as well. But then you go to Dark Souls. You got Anor Londo. You've got the the Gulch in Dark Souls 2. You've got Landell in Elden Ring. The Halig tree. All of the Shadow of the Erd tree. All the regions there, because they've got a couple different ones. I don't remember any of the names there, but I'm just honestly just throwing. I'm spitballing names off the top of my head to improve my point, which my point probably doesn't need to be proven. But and then the NPCs, they have just very different characters and different motives. I'd say Dark Souls usually tends to have the way more creepy and um, anti-hero villains, NPCs, just with the way they interact with you in the world. And there are some villains in those games. Like I think of like the Happy Mask Salesman. He's probably more of an anti-hero, but there's just the way he acts and carries himself. You're always unsure of what his true goals and motives are, and like how the hell did he even come to own the Majora's Mask? Like how the hell did he even get his hands on it? We do see him teleport and break reality as we know it, but who knows? It is just a game at the end of the day. But huh? No, you can ride a pig though. Another thing I think Dark Souls does better is just the boss battles in general. Maybe not the boss design, but the combat, which obviously makes sense because one's generally designed around the combat with different builds in mind, where the other one is more designed around like environmental storytelling and just mechanics and being able to use a new cool item that you had just gotten that you never had before. Um, Dark Souls just has a lot more memorable fights, which that might be an unfair that might be an unfair argument between the two. But like I said before, this is my video. Another thing is the municipal areas and quests and all the stuff that isn't just shoved down your throat that you can completely miss if you never seek it out or happen to stumble upon it or you know go to find in intentionally in like a second or third playthrough. A lot of the heart pieces you get in Zelda, which you do from either like helping an NPC or finding them in different areas or maybe in a dungeon or something like that. It's just like completing a quest. They give you upgrades to your heart, and the more and more that you get, obviously, the harder and harder it is going to kill you, and the game is just generally going to get easier. But if you just skip out on that and only purely do the main quest, you're not going to end up with that many hearts. Which I think that's also good storytelling as well, because it just kind of shows that there are other aspects to being the hero and stopping to help out other people in small like different ways actually does add up over time and helps you out and makes you stronger, because there is a saying that whenever you're helping somebody else, you're also helping yourself. It's
Exactly.
very true,
Right.
and a lot of people probably could hear that and at least give it some thought. They don't have to take it into account or just start like living by that, but it is very true. And the same usually can be said, well, not usually, the same can be said about Dark Souls, but I just feel like a lot of the NPCs are just a lot more memorable and a lot more creepy as well. There's just a lot of uneasy feelings and tension whenever you're going back and forth with Patches or any of the characters, honestly, because they have just such like a weird laugh, monologuing, like almost villainous laugh that they have after every interaction you have with them. I will say the one thing that is nicer about Zelda is you'll know when you're done talking to an NPC. You don't have to just like spam speak to them just to like make sure that they're not repeating the same thing, so that you know that you can continue the quest. Because for some reason, I don't know why, but that's what you have to do in the Souls like games, which honestly is a little irritating. And I guess one thing that you could argue in Zelda's favor here,
Yeah.
though, is the just
Probably
not
going on
as
during
it's a
game
lot
time.
it's a lot easier to digest. A lot of the quests and like the areas that you need to go to next are not very convoluted, or if you're doing an
Maybe
NPC
talk about my
quest,
favorite game.
it's not going to be super convoluted that you have to look up a guide to and walk a certain way and crouch and do something at a very specific time just to have one little thing pop up that's not really going to change your
There's
game.
not a lot of
The
food.
Zelda quest lines are a lot more straightforward and usually offer a
Wow, we're
lot better
funny far with stuff.
results. All in all, though, I hold love for both of them, but I just don't see myself ever going back to do a full playthrough of any of the Zelda games. I've been there, done that. I've seen like basically everything there is to it, and unless Nintendo changes their practices, I'm not gonna get a new Switch 2, and I'm not gonna purchase the newest Zelda title. Like I said, though, much love to the Zelda series franchise, because they really do hold a special place in my heart. It's just that now, I've grown up. I'm an adult now. I'm not, a wee little snot nosed kid or a young angsty teenager. The games just are not marketed to me as well. But love both of them. I'd love to hear your comments down below. Yeah, generic
What is
YouTuber
this
call to
game?
action shit. Chill out, you have a peace one. Peace out, you have a chill one.